Right guys, I'm here with Adam Goods. Thank you very much for coming on Get Real with Rio. We're here in a gym. We're not going to get in that gym behind us, by the way, because there'll only be one winner. This big guy here.
I've seen you train, mate, come on.
But this is called the PCYC gym. This is where the police and the community come together, I think from the 1930s,
yeah, that's
is
right.
it? So a lot of history here. You can smell it in here. You can smell the sweat, the blood. This morning I was actually up at about 6 o'clock walking to the beach. I was invited to the beach by some locals. It was pitch black, dark. For anyone that doesn't know or hasn't been here, it was packed. The beach was packed. Is that normal out here?
Yeah, it's normal. I just live around the corner. I'm a couple of streets back off Bondi Beach, mate, and it's awesome. And because there is all that activity and people just working on their fitness, it actually is infectious. It makes you want to get up early and be part of that.
Yeah, I thought this has got to be my lifestyle now in England. Like, I don't live anywhere near a beach.
Yeah.
But getting out early, working out early is something to be. There's something good to be said about that.
I think with being sporting careers, we just take it for granted, those endorphins that we release when we train and play, right? And now we're older, you're still looking for opportunities to do that. And I think getting up early and starting the day like that, and then jumping in the ocean, which I know you did, it's just a great way to start the day.
Some people are saying that I surfed. I was actually just like active in the water. That was it. It wasn't surfing at all. But it was really good. I really enjoyed it. How do you stay fit? Because you stay in good nick after you retire.
Yeah, so I played professional sport for 18 years, AFL here. I grew up playing the real football. Been a Man U supporter, all my life. Go on. Big supporter of yourself, obviously, over the journey. Tip of the hat to Marcus Rashford and the guys now. Finally, this year, I see hope for us.
We've got hope.
Well, yeah, 100%. But for me, I've come full circle again. I retired 7 years ago. I'm playing football again.
Oh wow!
I've been playing football for the last 6 years and just loving it. Playing with a good group of mates. During winter, 11 aside, and then summer, 6 aside.
Oh, great.
And it's just keeping me active, and I still love running into people. I can't do that in my office. People get a little bit weird about that, but I just still need that competitiveness I still have.
Contact.
I just need contact. I need to be part of a team.
Yeah. So when did you get into, obviously you played Australian Rules football. I actually used to watch Australian Rules football as a kid, that, on Channel 4 in England. We used to have it on a Sunday. And teams like Geelong, is it Geelong?
Yeah,
Geelong, Carlton, Essendon.
Yeah.
Who else was there? Who wore the brown and yellow?
Hawthorn.
Hawthorn, yeah. So I know a few of the teams.
Yeah.
But I looked at your career and listen, I can't go through all the titles and individual awards this guy has won. It'd be too long. We haven't got enough time on the show. But one thing that resonated with me is you said something that I thought, wow, I say this. And I've never heard anybody else say it, but if people only remember me for my football, I've failed in life. I say something quite similar. Talk me through what your feelings are about that.
Yeah, so I was gifted. I was at a family day where we host, all the Swan supporters came to the SCG. We signed autographs and photos with all the kids, which we love doing. And one of the fathers of the daughters gave me a little quote, and the quote of the day was for that date. And it was a quote from Isaiah Thomas, who was basketball Detroit Pistons. And the quote was, if I'm only ever remembered as a basketballer, then I've failed in life. And that quote, I just grabbed it, I didn't read it, I put it in my pocket, I said, thank you. I then had that on glue tick on the back of my locker for the next 5 years. I had to then write it out myself and change it from basketball to football because it just really kept me leveled and grounded on what I was doing. That this football career that I'm doing is such a small amount of time in my life. I retired when I was 35. I still got a long amount of years to live, but also have a long amount of years to have an impact and do something good with my life. So I was really blessed by being gifted that quote, but then also I love telling people about it because it really sort of makes us think about what are we doing right now? And what we are doing, that's not what defines you and who you are in your life. Just like, as sports people, we don't want to be defined just as sports people. That was a certain part of our life, but as we move forward in life, for me, I'm a father, that's the legacy I want to leave in the children I bring into the world and the impact that they go on and have.
Before we go into that, the personal stuff, I want to take you back to your professional career. You won so much. You were such an integral member of all the teams you played in over the years. Consistency is a big part of that. A winning mentality. How do you kind of garner that? How do you create that? or was it something that was just in you from a young age?
Nah, it definitely wasn't something that was in me from a young age. So I was like, we're at the PCYC here club in Woolloomooloo down here at Pot Point. This club is to support young Indigenous men and women of the local community and the relationship with the police. So it's the police club that invites community members in, and that is to build relationships. So for me growing up, I was like a lot of the kids that come into this gym that we're in right now are quiet, shy, not very confident, and it was through sports and doing training and working hard that I actually realised I actually am good at this, but more importantly I belonged. The more I belonged where I was, the better I got out of myself, the better the club got out of me, and weirdly this leader started to come out of me that had never been there in my whole life.
So what type of leader would you have called yourself looking back?
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those leaders that still leads by example, definitely do what I do, not what I say. I think that's a really great trait of leadership, to be able to do that. I was really good at relationships. I was really good at building relationships, maintaining relationships, being able to have tough conversations, but then also being able to support and challenge those people. So that was the way I like to lead. In our football club, we had lots of different leaders that I could learn from, and I was very blessed to have learnt from some of the greats, but then be able to put that in the way that I wanted to be known as a leader.
I've obviously done a lot of reading up on yourself before coming and speaking to you, and racism is something that kind of I see come up quite a lot in your Wikipedia, and the way you've gone about dealing with that. What obstacles, what type of situations kind of arose that you had to deal with that you thought, why is an Indigenous man having to go through this even today?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate it's in our society. I remember sitting with you where I was asking you the questions. Man, that would have been nearly 15 years ago here in Sydney at the Sheraton. And I was asking you about your brother and the racism he went through, because I was going through the same crap at that time as well. And you were saying how actually, weirdly, you were able to, it wasn't something that happened to you directly on the football fields and through your journey. So for me, it had happened all the time, whether it be school, whether it be at the football teams that I played, and even at the elite level on and off the field. So it's just a part of my life.
Did you combat it differently at each level?
Yeah, I had to. So the best advice I got from my mum was, she told me, when people call you names, if they're being racist to you, you just walk away. You be the bigger person and you walk away. And that put me in really good stead, because it gave me a choice. And that choice was to be non-confronting. No violence was used, which I think my mum was trying to protect me from. And I was a big kid in my year, right? So I was happy to go, let's go. But she protected me from that. And I learnt later in life that when I had the confidence, but more importantly, I became articulate, I could actually confront it in my way. And that's when I started to call out racism. And that's when I started to have a platform to be able to talk about racism and where it comes from and how it's used. And more importantly, how it makes us feel, how it really does affect us deep down.
Educating yourself is important as well, to have those conversations and to be able to transmit that to somebody else as well, like a perpetrator.
Yeah, 100%. So my biggest part of my journey was I knew I was Aboriginal, but I didn't know how I was connected to that. So when I got to Sydney as a 17-year-old kid to play professional sport, I was interviewed, my very first interview, and the question came across, congratulations Adam Goods, you're going to be an incredible Aboriginal role model for all those Indigenous kids out there. I'm sitting there thinking, I don't even know what it means to be Aboriginal. So I then had to go on a journey and learn about who I was as an Aboriginal person, which took about 8 years. I'm constantly still learning today and being able to
Such a huge history.
It is, and the reasons why I'm not connected or wasn't connected and didn't have that knowledge growing up is a part of the story as well. So that education journey throughout my whole life has been a real big part of the person you now see, sitting here with you today, Rio.
Yeah, and I think you've done like an incredible job of turning around the events from football into the next phase of your life. Has those problems that you found during your career really pushed you into this next phase and to the changes in education of people that you want to kind of put out? Has that really pushed you, those events push you there?
I think you definitely find a space where you belong, but also a space where you want to challenge. You want to challenge the norm. So I love challenges. I don't think we you get to the best of the best without being able to overcome challenges and take on more than probably you need to. And I think that's where, you know, when you face that sort of adversity, that you really test yourself. And then when you do really well under that pressure in those circumstances, that you go, wow, okay, I can really do this and I can really achieve. And I think for me, now moving on as a CEO of a business and running a foundation, I'm really proud that, you know, everything I do is paying back to who I am as an Indigenous person, whether it's helping Indigenous business, if it's helping Indigenous students as they come through my foundation on academic scholarships. There's always payback to the next generation coming through to build education, build confidence in themselves, but more importantly, build something that we've never had, and that's wealth through the businesses and opportunities that we can create.
You talk about leadership in terms of your business and your foundation. What elements have you taken from the dressing room of football into your businesses? Because there's huge parallels. I've seen that in my life.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I never went to university. I don't have an MBA, and my first job out of football was to become a CEO of a startup company, right? And I only had confidence to do that because of what I needed to bring from my sporting career, and that was leadership, that was confidence, it was discipline, and it was hard work, and wanting to come to work to learn. I didn't know what it took to be a CEO, but my 3 business partners had all been in leadership positions and had long careers in corporate land, and they were there to teach me and educate me. And it's been a steep journey for me the last 7 years, learning business, you know, being able to understand a P&L, to be able to understand risk in a business, and more importantly, to have fun. You know, business can be fun, and it should be fun, and that's what we really ram home at our business IDIC, is that, you know, we're here to make and create opportunities for other Indigenous people, but we're here to have fun whilst we're doing it as well.
I've heard you mention the word confidence quite a lot already in this chat, and it's great to have that confidence, but there's a lot of people out there that don't have confidence and they go through tough times. When you go through a tough time in your life, who do you turn to? Where do you go?
It's a really good question, because for a long part of my life, I didn't have anyone to turn to, and I didn't have anywhere to go. And a big part of my journey and reconnecting to my Aboriginality and the spirituality of that, meditation has been a really important part of me connecting to my ancestors, and for them to give me the strength to be the warrior that I needed to be when I went out on the football field, but then also to be the warrior to deal with the social media issues, the negativity from media that came with being an elite sports person. So through that connection to my Aboriginality, it gave me the armour that I needed. And even today, I still need that armour. I think we all do, to walk out into the world. And it's nice to know that I've got my ancestors, you know, looking out for me. But more importantly, I know that I come from a long line of ancestors that have overcome so much more adversity that I'm facing, you know, in 2023.
Is there any one piece of advice that you've been given on your journey that you go, I look to that in times of need? Or equally, any advice that you feel is very, very kind of strong that you want to push to people that are coming through your foundation especially?
Yeah, the biggest piece of advice that I received was actually to be focused. Be focused on what you really want. I think
consistent.
Correct, right? The world wants to pull us in all different directions, and for me, having that clear, single mind focus that when I was playing my football career, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I should be doing, and every decision that I make will affect what I'm doing as a footballer, and I wanted to be the best. And to be the best, I had to make so many sacrifices. Some of those sacrifices were family members, friends, going on holidays when everybody, going to birthday parties, you know, unfortunately even going to funerals. I wasn't able to do that. That single-minded focusedness has given me the opportunity to do all the good things I'm doing today, because I knew that I had an opportunity to be really good at something, but that wasn't enough for me. I wanted to be great, and to be great, I had to make that sacrifice. So having that focus is something that I'm trying to instill in our young people, and that focus on education. Here in our country, if we can get our kids to year 12, and we can get them a diploma 3 or 4 in any of the education courses, there's no gap when we talk about Indigenous people and non-Indigenous when we talk about finding a job in this country, which is massive, massive. Our employment rates here in this country are horrible. Our health rates and incarceration rates, they're horrible as well. So for me, if we can just help a generation of kids focus on education as the key for change, then I'm doing my job.
When we were kids, we all had hard heads, and you're getting told by people who are older and more experienced, and you sit there and you go, oh, I know it all. And the roles are reversed now, obviously. You've had a good life and you've seen a lot, achieved a lot, and you're trying to tell young people, you're sitting there thinking to yourself, if only you just take this in, man, your life could be so much different.
Yeah, I've always been, sometimes I feel like a bit of a fraud because I gave myself to charity work, and I would go away from those events, those giving, feeling like I'm the one that benefited from that.
Yeah.
And
I've patted myself on the back, made myself feel better.
Yeah, like going in and knowing that you put a smile on a kid's face who's going through cancer in a cancer ward at the hospital, walking away going, oh wow, I was able to, just for that 5 minutes, take his mind away from the cancer or the injections or the next treatment that's coming. And for me, understanding that giving actually brings back more positivity and more opportunities has got me to the point where we started our own foundation. Through the giving of scholarships, we're actually able to change lives, and we're seeing that. We're now seeing our kids come through and graduate at university, going on and starting careers. We're having some lawyers and doctors, marine biologists, you know, careers where traditionally Aboriginal people aren't in. And to think that we played a small part in helping them on those journeys.
That's great work. I mean, do you look at your life and you've achieved so much again, and you're doing so much, family, few friendship networks, work. Is there anything in your life that if you could change, what would that be?
I think I like to live my life no regrets.
Yeah.
You know, my mum passed February last year. She was 62, man. So she died of a heart attack. And unfortunately, she lived a really tough life, and she looked after me and my brothers, 2 younger brothers, by herself, single parent most of her life, did an incredible job, but she had a lot of trauma from her childhood. She was taken away when she was 5, put into a white family, like a lot of her siblings were, and she didn't know at the time that she was one of 10. And she was taken when she was 5 and put into that white family, never to reconnect with her mum and father again. So that was government policy in this country. To do that. And for me, that's the reason why I wasn't connected to my Aboriginality, because of that disconnect when she was 5. And as a father now of a 3.5-year-old, a 16-month-old, and soon to be another baby in a couple of months, it just breaks my heart to think that she was living in fear her whole life, that someone could knock on the door just there and take her kids away at any moment if she wasn't doing the right thing by us kids. So if I could go back and change anything, I would just love to have gone back to my mum's life and, you know, in that moment, you know, change the fact that she was taken, and that how that one sliding door moment might have changed the world and life that I had. And if that meant I may never have played professional sport, if it meant that I might not even be alive today, just that moment knowing that my mum was still connected to her family and didn't have to live the life that she lived, and how tough it was for her, I'd love to be able to do that just for the old girl.
No, it's crazy. I mean, staying connected to a family is interesting as well. When you're trying to be so successful, and the sacrifices you just touched upon before that you've got to make to be great. You can be good making a few sacrifices, but to be, like you said, to be great, you've got to sacrifice almost everything. Are you making that different now? Are you making changes to that? Are you putting less importance on your professional life, without losing too much focus, but understanding that family is a hell of an important part, like you just mentioned?
It's amazing because my focus is my family now.
Yeah.
So
it's changed then?
100%. So when I do anything, if that focus is going to take me away from my family for an X amount of days, there has to be a value put on that, and that value then has to be valued against spending time with my family. And man, that value needs to be good to take me away from my family, right? So that's the decision making that I have. You know, owning my own business means that I can start when I want, I can finish when I want, I can take balance. I can take holidays when I want, and that's really important to me because I sacrificed having children when I was playing. You know, I had my first kid when I was 39. Wow. I'd been retired for 4 years. I was ready to dedicate, you know, my time and energies to something else. So my family, even though they didn't think of it at the time, the sacrifice that I made during my football career, they're now benefiting because of that. Not only from the success, but from the financial benefits of the sacrifices that I made. So being able to, you know, buy my mum a first house that she's ever owned, and be able to be the bank for my brothers to invest in properties to start their journey. That doesn't happen without the hard work and sacrifice that we have to make, right, to be successful. And you know, I'm just grateful that I did make those decisions at those times. And like you said, it wasn't easy to do that.
So Adam, I see you brought a bag, like all of our guests do. What? It's interesting me. It's intriguing me. What is in there? What have you brought?
Well, this is from my daughter Adelaide. She always makes sure that I've got a little doll in my bag wherever I go. I'm surprised the things that I find in my work bag, but I also am surprised at the things that are missing, the stuff that she takes out. But this, Rio, is a Firestick. And in our Adnyamatna culture, which I'm a proud Aboriginal man, part of that culture, this is like a wedding ring between me and my wife. She's not Indigenous. So this Firestick is actually the Firestick that was gifted to us in our traditional Aboriginal wedding ceremony. This symbolises not only our marriage together, but it also symbolises the people that were in that ceremony with us, and there's about 150 people. Now, if we ever want to separate in our traditional culture, we have to take this Firestick back to that same location and have everybody else witness who was there at that event and watch us destroy this stick. Now, what an incredible you know, ceremony to be part of, but also that connection to our culture. And what this also symbolises for my wife, her being non-Indigenous, is her marriage into an Indigenous culture. So she takes on her kinship, which is from our traditional culture. There's two sides. On North Wind, which is Aradu, so I need to marry the opposite. And if I marry the opposite outside of my community, they take on the opposite kinship, which is South Wind. And South Wind in our culture is Mathuri. And it's a matriarchal cycle and kinship system, which means that she passes that on to our children. That's really important to me, to know that they're getting that kinship and knowledge passed on through the mother.
Oh, just let me touch on one of the points. Unbelievable, actually. It's probably the most kind of interesting thing that's been brought out of someone's bag who I've interviewed with. But I heard you say your wife is non-Indigenous.
Yeah.
How is that seen from Indigenous people, but also people that aren't Indigenous?
In our community, no matter what she looks like, she is Mathuri, which is South Wind. She is as very much Aboriginal in our community as I am.
Right.
So that's the power of kinship, and that's the power of the North and South Wind in our communities.
I love that, because where I'm from, sometimes mixed relationships are kind of frowned upon. And my mum and dad, obviously, are mixed race.
Same.
My mum was white and my dad was from the Caribbean. And that was absolutely a no-go area for many years, and still is to some people.
Yeah, and I think what it showcases, especially lack of knowledge in our country around Aboriginal protocol ceremonies, that even though I'm married outside of my Aboriginal traditional group, it's a very inclusive culture. And that when I marry and bring someone in, they accept the responsibility that they now have in our kinship system, and they then pass that on to our children.
That's a beautiful way to finish, Adam. Listen, I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
And good luck in all you do in the next stage of your life.
Cheers. Thanks, man.